G'day guys, welcome to the SC Playbook question and answer podcast out of NRL Supercoach, round 17. Tim Williams on deck to take the questions from the SC Playbook subscriber Discord community. Run through the late mail that's come through thus far leading into round 17 and update my trade and skipper plans, my sit v start. To get to that stage of the season where there are a lot of difficult sit v start decisions, which will inevitably backfire, but we'll get to that one shortly. Alrighty, Beanies for Brain Cancer round as well. I need to update my beanie and go grab a freshie, but this is the one last year, raising money for the Mark Hughes Foundation, a great initiative from the NRL, and this one's held up brilliantly. So I need to double up and get another one for 2026 season. All right, let's get straight into it, guys, for this week, and we will start with the late mail. And overnight, the 24-hour cuts for the Bunnies and Eels clash. Thoughts and concerns go out to the rugby league guru. Saxon Pryke has been cut from the bench for the Bunnies, so Roo about the only one that's impacted by that one, I dare say, and even then, not really. At the Tigers, there's a bit in there was a report from NBWT, the Tigers, it's a page on Twitter, or X, Samuel Fainu, and does some good stuff, NBWT, for the Tigers. Samuel Fainu is on track to return next week against the Dragons, having initially been ruled out until round 22. That's via the Telegraph. So keep an eye on that one. There's been a little bit of mixed reports around it, but coming from the Telegraph, obviously it sounds like it would be an early return to play. Initially, it was 22. The NRL side had him at 20, I think, so next week would be a little bit early, but obviously a potential impact on Tony Suka and Sione Fainu. So pretty significant if he comes back. For price rises for whoever drops out off the edge of those players, and then also as a number for round 18 as they'd be coming off the bench in assumed limited minutes. Although Samuel Fainu, maybe he plays limited minutes off the bench. I don't know. Tommy Gilbert missing out with a throat injury for the Dolphins. No sort of major Supercoach impact here. Well, to be fair, physio has sort of gone on to say that throat injuries notorious for a wide recovery range have tracked anywhere from 2 to 12 weeks. So if it's longer term, perhaps there is, but hopefully for Tommy Gilbert's sake, it is only a short-term one, only misses a week or two there. Ruben Garrick is out for Manly due to a head knock last week, which will obviously see Jamal Fogarty goal kick for Manly again. Jerome Hughes out for the Storm, which we already knew. And then I think just the other one, there was some reports, confirmed reports of Dave Fafita missing captain's run for the Bunnies yesterday. I believe he was at, I think it was Tino Malawi's dad's funeral as their really good mate. So that's why he was unavailable there. But he has been confirmed by Wayne Bennett as good to go for the Bunnies tonight. So a big one there for those on the Fafita bandwagon. Okay, that's about it. There's not a lot of late mail that's really come through this week, so nothing sort of major to touch on or the impacts for the time being. Let's get into some questions for Supercoach round 17. All right, first one coming in from Cash, pretty straightforward, says, G'day, thoughts on Ford down for Fafita and Bostock up to Marky Mark. Here's my team for reference. And yes, I can't knock those at all. Cash, pretty strong trades. Bostock, I don't know, like we did it on the Playbook podcast the other night, our top 7 power rankings for the CT dub position. We might even do fullbacks next week. That was fun on Tuesday. But yeah, and Bostock didn't even get a mention. Now, I know the Spies got him, Desi might have him, and for what it's worth, when we did that, it wasn't to say that Spy, for example, is looking to trade out Jack Bostock. I suspect he'll have him long term. We were just doing our like blank slate, who are the top 7 CT dubs. He didn't come up in conversation, Jack Bostock. Not to say he's not a season keeper for people that own, but we went through just this amazing crop of players, like high upside players, and I don't think Bostock is in the top 7 there, despite how good the Dolphins are. They spread their attack so well. Obviously, Osaka on that right edge, but you look over to the left edge of Herbie Farmworth, Selwyn Cobbo, they've just got strike weapons everywhere. So Bostock is a fine hold for the season, but yeah, if you're looking around for trades and whatnot, because a lot of his appeal was also buy coverage, I suspect he'll be on the bench for the Blues next week as per game 2. We'll see what happens there, but with Latrell out, that looks relatively likely, and obviously Casey McLean out too. So because he loses that appeal, yeah, I like to play to Marky Mark. And I mentioned on a podcast during the week so far that I do think it is a really good week to save trades if you can. There are differences here, right, where like my team's pretty well set up for numbers for round 18, the third major buy next week. If your numbers are a bit light on for that and you need to make a couple of moves to preempt sort of numbers for that week, there's no harm in using 2. But So much changes week on week in Supercoach. So on a week where there's a full 8 games, full 8 fixtures, as I said, the Sit V starts. We're already dropping some really good players, I would imagine, the majority of squads. So I think it is a really good week to try and save a trade, if not two, if you can do it. But yeah, in terms of your blank canvas, those trades, Ford to Fafita, Bostock to Markey, hard to knock them there. One from about Jimmy B. That's a really good question. Hey, Timbo Jones, with the big scorers in front row forward, is Payne Haas a must-have? You have Terrell May, Toby Couchman, Xavier Willison, Alex Twile, and Haas as viable options. So if you have 3 of them, does one have to be Haas? I do think he is. I think it's a great question that you raise, though. And I think Brisbane will at the very least remain within touching distance of the 8. Like, unless they really just capitulate and lose, which, I mean, they could lose to the Roosters this week, to be fair. What's the ladder? Like, they're doing it tough. If they lose this week, they then play round 18 without their origin players, which, to be fair, will be Payne Haas, maybe Reece Walsh. But regardless, I can't see them capitulating so poorly that they really drop out. They're 13th now on 14 points. Holy shit. There's 3 games between the Broncos and the top 8. If I seem particularly happy about that, I am, because I'm a New South Welshman and we're probably about to lose game 3. So I need to take any sort of little wins that we can. Okay, so if they lose to the Roosters, then lose next week, that's fascinating. How many buys do the Broncos have left? They've got one in, I think it's round 20 is their last one. That is round... There's also rumours circulating that he might get a release before June 30 to go to the Bunnies. Holy heck, that would be huge news. Yeah, so just the one more to buy to come in round 19. Okay, coming back to the question, I do think he's a must. I think he'll stay at the Broncos. That would be another bombshell from the Haas camp if he were to leave in the next 5 days to the Bunnies. Oh my God, that would make that, it'd almost be unfair. Like, Bunnies would rocket into premiership contention if Payne Haas goes there. Wow. But yes, I think he's a must. Xavier Willison, if he keeps punching out these big numbers, he's dual to our front row forward, so you can move him down to open up a slot there. But what I do think is that with Carrigan back and Haas back, I think Xavier Willison's probably going to be a sell. He might be one of those luxury sells where he'll still score well enough that you could hold him long term, but I don't think Xavier Willison punches out keeper numbers with Haas and Carrigan on deck. Yeah, I mean, I even throw in there Payne Haas, his final hurrah at the Broncos on the run home, trying to make finals footy. Not going to be there next year. Madge will play massive minutes and he'll go nuts. So, yes, I do think Payne Haas is a must for the run home. But, it's a good point that you make around the quality of front rows out there at the moment. But Payne Haas, he's a different beast, the big fella. Next question coming in is a good one, but a tricky one. And it's probably going to give you a relatively disappointing answer, mate. But one from Sneaky Pete, looking for a bottom dollar CT dub or 2RF who will likely play 18 and then nuff out. Any hot tips? Mate, I've just run an eye across it and there's not much. Like, without running because there's so much of a deep dive to go into this and looking at who drops out next week, predicted origin teams, all sorts of things. But I think you're battling. I'm going through the options and I've sort of got it filtered down to who plays next week, starting from the bottom and going through a few options. Probably one of the problems is like someone like a Roosters may have been a bit of a sneaky option there, but they're not playing next week. I'm looking at guys like 2RF, you're playing with fire a little bit because if they're a forward, they have every chance to turn into an AE nightmare. And be on the bench and just cause headaches for you for the rest of the season. So you ideally, if you're wanting enough and you're wanting a number next week, you probably want it to be in a CT dub. So, I was looking at someone maybe like a Reece Foley who's dual, I think CT dub 2RF and could maybe have slid in next week as a number. He also might not have, but with the Roosters having so many out to origin, but going through the options and like of blokes who are listed even in squads or anything like that now who might be a chance to play. You've got, like, Hayes Perham's one that could tick that box if Reece Walsh is in the origin squad and he plays fullback. He's still going to be a potential AE nightmare for the rest of the season, just maybe lingering on that bench for the Broncos. But he would. The thing there is he's like a 229K dual CT dub fullback, which is fine. It's not the best dual to have, the fullback one. You probably want a CT dub 2RF or something. If Reece Walsh misses the origin squad next week, then Perham probably doesn't play, I wouldn't think. So he's not great. There's there's a few bunnies. Like there's a Jackson Sherab who, again, he's got a nightmare written all over him. Josh Felaherty, who 257k, he's paying a bit more up. He's not dual position. He may not even play next week. Let's just Tolutau Kohler get picked for the Blues. I'm not sure. I hope so. I don't think he's done much wrong. And then above that, you sort of get into more expensive players, which is starting to defeat the purpose of enough. You can throw out players like a Philip Coates might slot in and play that position, might get around for the Broncos next week, but also probably doesn't. There's also that Antonio Verhoeven. We just don't know. So, yeah, sorry to disappoint, but I'm not seeing much here that you could confidently say is going to come in, play the game, and then drop back out and then not cause you headaches. I think this is also more difficult this season because of the six-man bench, right? So in the past, there are a bunch of players here who they just wouldn't get a look in 17s or on the four-man bench on a normal week for clubs with players on deck. But now with the six-man bench, just being able to carry them, it just becomes so risky moving forward. So it's an interesting one, but it's actually a lot more difficult this season in that regard for enough. Yes, the sit v start questions begin, and I can't wait to get heaps of them wrong and get abused for them. But the reality is we're starting to sit some guns, as I said, and we're just here's a piece of advice for you and one that I need to take on myself. We're going to sit players that are going to ton in the back end of the year. It's inevitable, and it could start this weekend. Try not to get too worked up about it because a lot of these are just coin flips and you'll get some right, you get some wrong. There'll be a week where you play a bloke who gets injured 10 minutes in and then the bloke you sat him 4 tons up. And Tommy Kelly is asked, sit v start, pick one to start, Lukey, Lasardi or Cody Walker. I love your work, mate. Cheers, Tommy. I have these 3 players. I have the same decision. At the moment, I'm sitting on a Lasardi and Cody Walker play. There's nothing between them. Lukey is running at Blaze Talangi. I think there'll be points up there. I don't mind him as a play because of that Blaze Talangi matchup. If he was running at Cleary, I'd just be like, nah, not the play. But honestly, even as I speak, because I'm thinking of, it's a bit wet in Sydney tonight for Cody Walker. Lasardi hasn't been crash hot, also potentially a bit wet for that Manly Storm game on Saturday night. So in drier conditions, hopefully in Townsville, Lukey running at Blaze Talangi, I think there'll be points. Is that the play? He gets through plenty of base and power. Tommy, splinters here, mate, sitting on the fence a little bit, but as it stands, I'm playing Cody Walker and Lasardi, but the more I think about it, Lukey's every chance at a little bit of attack there running it at Talangi. Alrighty, another good question from Jimmy. Is it worth selling Iro for Marky Mark? Just seems like the Sharks have been allergic to using him this season apart from his 2 big games. I wouldn't, mate. There's a few reasons for that. Firstly, I'm assuming Iro's lost all his value. 604k, there you go. I think Nico Hines back's going to help and Blake Brayley back is going to help. Obviously, they're not playing this week, but I understand they were back for that game last week, but they were well beaten by the Roosters in that as well. So Iro, they've got some really nice games on the run home. I'll crunch a few numbers and I'll throw them in the Discord community this afternoon around Iro with Brayley and Nico compared to without. It's a bit hard without Brayley because the games he missed with that broken arm, the 2 or 3 games were the first games he's missed in about 10 years. But with Nico in particular, full team back on deck, the Sharkies, I think it'll be beneficial for Iro. I'm not convinced Iro's a season keeper on current form, but what he is a gun number for you for next week in round 18 against the Broncos, who will be missing not that many players, but a couple due to Origin. As well, where it's just Payne Haas, I think, off the top of my head, if Walsh misses out, which is mental to think, especially being premiers. Anyway, and Stags potentially. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, Iro, look, I wouldn't rush to sell him. I think you hold him at least through round 18 and then you sort of reassess a bit later on. Him to Marky Mark is an upgrade and you want Marky Mark, but I do think I get the break evens. Iro at 103 and Marky Mark I think is about 6 financially speaking. I don't know though. I could make that trade this week and I'm not, for what it's worth. Guys, the Nord VPN security player of the week is Tavita Nalfahu. Now, I've mentioned him during the week. He's not even starting this week, but that's how good I think this kid is and how good a Supercoach prospect it is as well, and one that we just really need to keep an eye on moving forward. If there's an injury in the Dolphins' backline and he becomes a regular on the sting outside Herbie Farmworth or Jack Bostock for that matter, holy heck, lock and load. Granted, he'll cost you an arm and a leg. But yeah, guys, when I say security, I'm talking about base and power stat beasts that don't need to find attacking stats each week to get you a good score. So if you hit, well, he had 60 base and power himself last week for a winger. So mental. If you're after security online, look no further than NordVP. And we hear these horror stories of cyber attacks all the time. And like anything, the initial thought is it won't happen to me. Well, guess what? Egg on my face, it did happen to me last year, and I'd have given anything to have had my private data protected online. I lost cash, mobile number, emails, social channels, bank cards, and a heap more. No exaggeration there. Every single freaking one of them. The mobile number, it was the one that rocked me the most. Lost my mobile number. And then because all my bank accounts and that were getting hacked as well, I couldn't call the bank because my number had been transferred over to the dirty old hackers. It was just awful. Anyway, it's premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee per month. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/SC Playbook. Our link also gives you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That link is in the podcast episode description box, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. So yeah, guys, if you're in that boat and you're a bit concerned, even if you're not concerned, you should be. Get it checked out. Jump on board. Question from Tommy. I have 15 trades and 11 or 12 players for round 18, and I'm covered for 19. I'm thinking of selling Marju to either Jenkins or Marky Mark. I feel like they are safer players to play every week and better play for the run home. I don't think you should. I just think we've run through numbers on SC Playbook podcast, and Maxi Bryden flicked a reel out for us, how dudes go with other dudes. Check that one out on the socials at SC Playbook, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, around, how does like Lehigh Hopewadi and Hamoli Olakwatu go with Tommy Turbo back and without him? What is the impact of Latrell Mitchell on Cody Walker and Alex Johnston and these sorts of guys? And then Kalen Ponga on Greg Marju, which obviously numbers saw. So I just see 2 day games incoming against the Tigers this week, both in Newcastle, and then the Dolphins next week with players out. I just think he can go big again. I wouldn't be selling him, especially as a major buy around number. No, I wouldn't do it. I'd find another way to Tommy Jenkins. And as I said, you can go Marky now, but I'm going to wait till after Origin to snap up him. He only scored the late 30s last week. There was no Kalen Ponga on that as well. Keeping in mind, Bradman Best is back as well, so it's even better for Greg Marju. I don't think he's a sell. And for the tougher games on the run home, sit him. Another good question coming in from, and another tricky question at that, from Tyler. With Angus Crichton out for the Roosters, who gets more minutes? He's been heaps better at it this year, but Trent Robinson loves to chop and change his edge back rowers and does it on a whim, and you're like, where did this come from? And he has so many players in his team, in his back row, that can play edge or middle, which makes it very easy to chop and change. So the short answer is probably Nat Butcher, but also I don't really know. He's also played Victor Radley on the edge a heap in recent years. So Sua Wong, he'll be locked into one edge for 80 minutes, as he already was prior to the Crichton injury. But I suspect Nat Butcher, and look, the reality is he does, if he locked down an 80-minute role, he'd be Supercoach relevant. Like, he scored 59 points in 80 minutes last game with 61 in base. Before that, 58 in 49 minutes with 62 in base. 62 in base in 49 minutes in a gun attacking team, and he runs a great line. If we knew he was getting 80 minutes each week, yeah, there'd be a buy there at 457K. I just don't think you can confidently say that he will, and Robbo won't change edge back rowers on any given week. So there's also the fact that there's no round 18 buy coverage, major buy coverage for the Roosters. So I'd avoid, but yeah, he's a watch. A bit of an easier one here. Oh, not heaps easier because I just missed a name, but peeling oranges. Lukey, Cody Walker, Saifiti or Pascoe last reserve. Saifiti, that's a bit left field. I hope you bought him in before his 82 weeks ago where he had a try assist and a try assist and a try, the big fella. I don't reckon he would have ever done that in his career, having a try and try assist in the same game. Sit him and sell him after round 18 as well. Really interesting buy there. Oliver Pascoe, you couldn't play on his minutes last week. Gee, I hope, with a lot of people selling Pascoe this week, that he comes out and plays big minutes again and is a season keeper. That'd be glorious. It's got to be Cody Walker or Helam Lukey. There's a bit of rain around Sydney. If it is pouring for the game, it's not meant to be heavy or anything, but if rain does come in for the game, I'd probably lean to Lukey. If it isn't too wet and it's a little bit showery or even hopefully dry for the game, I'll probably lean towards Cody Walker against Parramatta. But the more I think of it, the more of a coin toss that probably is. But what I will say is Cody Walker, while nerve-wracking to watch as an owner, he's fun because he's in everything. Next one from Henry. Sit 2 out of Lemuelu, Lasardi, Ryan Couchman, Toby Couchman, Zach Hosking, Tamari Martin. So you're playing the Couchman boys. I think on form you probably play Lemuelu. I'd sit Tamari Martin away game against the Dolphins. Maybe controversial, but I don't know. He's gone well in some easier games. He did go well against Penrith, to be fair, missing a few of their key players, though, their origin players. I think of those guys, I'd sit Tamari because the other options are so good. So then it comes down to probably Lasati v Zach Hosking. If conditions are okay for the Melbourne game, I'd probably lean to Lasati. Honestly, I think it's much to the muchness, right? Hosking probably has slightly better base. Lasati probably slightly better power. They can both find some attack, but also haven't been. I think Lasati is more likely for attack, even though Hosking is playing the Dragons. Watching Hosking very closely as an owner in recent weeks, I don't know if it's a bit harsh, but saying not getting used overly well in attack, but he hasn't threatened the line much, whereas in recent years he's looked really good attacking, and maybe it's just because Hudson Young's there and that's the preferential edge to go at for the Raiders, which makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. He just hasn't looked likely at all, which has been a bit disappointing, but yeah, I'd sit Tamari Martin and then toss a coin, Lasardi or Hosking. Tricky. One coming from... Who we got here? No. 3KU1. What's your thoughts on Alex Johnson as a pod player over, say, Jenkins? I just think that Jenkins this week is playing a position against the Cowboys up in Townsville, typically good conditions, in a spot that Chancellor Cookstad scored 4 tries last week, probably should have been 5. If Penrith, coming off a disappointing loss to the Titans at near full strength, their origin players back, turn up big time to this as a little bit of a statement, which they probably will because it's the Panthers and they rarely lose. Oh, seriously, he could... There's potential season-ending numbers on this, like if you don't own Tommy Jenkins. And I'm not saying Tommy Jenkins is a must long-term, but this week, it's an enticing matchup for him, isn't it? So not one I'd play with. I had him with AJ. I mentioned his stats with Latrell Seagold at centre over the last month since Latrell Mitchell's been out. Mixed bag, 113, 53, 28, and 124. A bit wet in Sydney tonight. Will that impact things a little bit? Probably. So long term, I quite like the Alex Johnson play. He's 718k with a break even of 94. If he does go a bit lower tonight, maybe you can wait till next week. Again, it's against Penrith, but without origin players. I'm thinking AJ for the run home. They have some nice games again against the Eels, against the Titans, and mixed in with some tough ones with Latrell Mitchell back. I don't think I'd go him as a pod play over Tom Jenkins. Maybe over others, but not Tommy Jenkins. Bradley. Love the content. Thanks for it all. My pleasure, mate. Bloody good fun as always. Pull the trigger on Tom Chester to Marky Mark. It'll leave me with 10 trades left for the year. Boom, lock and load. Don't need to go too much into that. I've spoken a lot this week about Tom Chester and how he's just not a top 7 CT dub for the run home. Marky Mark is, in my power rankings for CT dub on the Playbook potty, I had Marky Mark at number 2 and Tommy Chester didn't get a mention in that one. So, yeah, pull the trigger. One from Stanwell. Am I too late to get Tony Sukar in this week? It'll free up significant funds for upgrades elsewhere over coming weeks. The Samuel Finu news has me a bit concerned about Tony Sukar. I think Sione Finu, and I don't say this with confidence, but I think Sione Finu is probably the preferred edge, especially after scoring a double last week. That's hard to drop. So... monitor news around Samuel Finu like a hawk. The Tigers don't pay till Sunday Arbor. If we can get something a little bit more concrete on when Finu's back, the fact that the Telegraph reported that maybe next week, I think that's enough to put a line through him because Sukar, Neg 6 break even. He'll get a good price rise this week, sure, but then he could be benched by next week and just becomes bench fodder, an AE nightmare. So if we get word that Fino is out until, say, round 21, 22, whatever, as initially expected, yeah, pull the trigger. It's not too late, but if there's any uncertainty around it, which at the moment there is, I'd be a little reluctant on that one. Bretto Shank. I've got 12 trades remaining. This week, would you do no trades or trade Trindle to Marky Mark via Purdue? My round 18 numbers are good. No, I like it. I think if it gives you a 5-8 this week, it gets you Marky Mark for a good matchup with the Broncos, who are in all sorts. He's got that low break even, he'll make money, and your numbers for 18 are good. It means you can use that trade now, strengthen your team this week, leaves you 11 trades. If your numbers for round 18 are good, you're probably not trading next week, or maybe use one. Say use one next week, and that leaves you with 10 trades for the run home. Not too bad. On the obviously the slimmer side, but not too bad. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good play this week. It's reads well. Seriously. I'm not going to sleep for the next 2.5 months or whatever is left of the season with these sit-B start questions. Bring on the major bye week where there aren't any of them. Smithy, last bench spot, Cody, Bostock, Siegwald, Stefano. Cheers, mate. I wouldn't play Siegwald. It's a good para matchup, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game of footy tonight, and again, the wet conditions is concerning. I wouldn't play him. Cody, I know goes in the same boat as I like Cody's play. Cody just gets his hands on the ball a lot more and is in everything, whereas Siegwald, he's at centre. He's relying on it coming to him. Needs it to be a bit drier because it might make ball usage a little bit harder. So I'd play Cody over Siegwald. You probably play Bostock over both of them, realistically. I don't think there's much in it, but just because it's a tough Warriors matchup, but I'd probably just play Bostock over those two. Bostock versus Stefano. Stefano's come good. I've owned him for basically the whole season, and he's punched out some really good numbers of late. Battle of Brookie, it's going to be a tough one, potentially wet conditions. I think, let me just check the forecast in Brisbane, but I think if it's relatively dry in Brisbane, I think that's Jack Bostock is going to be the play there, especially for his upside. I know the Warriors are good, but their edge defense can be a bit shaky at times. Let's have a look. The Finns are Saturday, 3 p.m. Currently in Brizzy, shower or two, 0 to 4 degrees. That's fresh for Brisbane. 0 to 4 millimetres rain, I should say. So there might be some light showers, but it looks pretty good. Mate, I would play Jack Bostock in this one. Guys, if you tune into this potty, chances are that you back yourself in as a bit of a fantasy sport expert. Well, you've got your chance to put your knowledge to the test on a weekly basis. The best thing, in my view, about Smart Play, it's just game by game. You're not sitting there and it's Supercoach is the greatest thing possibly to happen to humanity, but it's long. There's a lot of, it's an endurance event. It's a season-long task, and we get committed to it, and you have to think in advance and do some planning, do your buy planning, who's coming in, who's coming out. It's a simple 80 minutes. You pick a team for it. You can win some cash. There's free competitions to enter as well. A bunch of the SC Playbook community have jumped into it as well, and you can take me on in contests as well. I jump in them each and every week, and you can do it for the World Cup, for EPL, for NBA, for any different sports that you want, and have a little bit of a flutter. And a lot of it, as I said, it's a free flutter as well if you just want to play and have a bit of a crack without putting any money into it as well. So guys, if you do want to have a crack at Smart Play for a chance to win some smart coins, pick a team for each contest, watch it play out in real time. If you want to give it a crack yourself, head to the link in the podcast description on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube to give it a crack. Good luck this week if you do have a go at it. All right, question, and I think I'm going to say shade come in from Jack the Ripper. Timmy Bill Williams, definitely shade. You have the most beautiful golf swing I've seen. Jack, we both know that is an out-and-out lie, but look, I'll take it as a little confidence booster for myself. I've got one of the uglier golf swings you'll see. Sometimes it works. More often than not, it does not. But we're working on it. Who would you prioritise as a buy this week out of Hudson Young, Olaquatu, and Mark Nwanganiwazi? For context, my CTW pre-trades are more stacked than my back row. Okay, I was wondering when I read that because I'm like, Marky Mark is the obvious one. Marky Mark is the option. He's got the 6 break even. They can all go big, these guys, but Marky Mark's got that 150 plus in him. on any given week. Hutto and Ola, a lot has to happen for them to even go like 120 plus. So I do think Marky Mark's the play. The only way that would differ for me this week, and it's pretty slim, I reckon I'd just go Marky Mark. Say you want one of those two back rows and Marky Mark for the run home. If getting Marky Mark means you're dropping a gun CT dub that you really don't want to this week to slot into that spot as a play for your 18, in that case, maybe you could go Hutto or Ola if that means you're replacing someone that you're not as keen to play in your back row for one of them two. But, I think your teams should probably be okay, and I reckon I'd be going with Marky Mark. Bry Dandy, do you know who will be getting duels next round? Fletcher Sharp, question mark. So there'll be a few coming in. Fletcher Sharp, I think, let me check this, but he's played a few games at fullback. I think he's played 3 at fullback, which means he'd get dual that. He was also super close to getting dual CT dub 5'8", which would have been heaps better. But I think he played fullback in round 7 and round 8. He played fullback last week, so I reckon he'll probably get... He should have been a dual at the start of the season anyway. He's the most versatile bloke in the competition, just about. Anywho, he didn't. They can rectify it in round 18. I reckon Fletcher will probably get 5'8". Tallis Duncan, my other boy, I'm not thrilled about him playing centre, but he should be getting dual CT dub 2RF, which is a ripper. So happy for owners there. And I'm sure there'll be a couple more in there, but look, they're the two that impact my team, so that's what I've kept a big eye on. Question from Life's and Mitch, which 2 out of 4 would you play? Keon, Tamari Martin, Hosking or Cody Walker? I reckon I'd go Keon and Hosking. Keon getting back some fitness, playing big minutes, in the middle. If it is a bit wet tonight, that'll suit him down to the ground, so I'd go him. Probably Zach Hosking. I know it's the boring option of him, Tamari and Cody, but... Only early 50s last week. He downgraded a heap on updates, but Dragons, every chance at finding some attack, day game down in the capital, and then I just think with the matchups, sorry, I shouldn't say matchups for Cody Walker because he's playing Parramatta, but I think they'll put up a fight tonight, Para, and tomorrow against the Dolphins, who he's not a bad player, don't get me wrong. I think he's a decent player every week because he's a gun, but the Dolphins are a really good team. Defensively on the edges, a bit weak at times, but I don't know. I think Hosking and Keon, if they find some attack, they can push that 90 to 100. And if they don't, they should give you a safe 60 to 65, if not more, to be honest. So, yeah. And the last question coming in from Tom. I unfortunately don't have Cleary to captain this week. Who do you suggest as a good captaincy choice? Let's segue that into my trades and skippers for the week because that works nicely. So my trade's pretty easy one, just the one this week, which will leave me with 12 trades remaining, and I'm hoping next week it gives me 14 players next week, so I'll probably use one next week on a bloke like Fafita or Dylan Lucas or probably not Reece Walsh, honestly. There's a few reasons. There's a bye, there's Penrith coming up. He's not looking that good, but I think there are some genuine season keeper options looming next week, so I'll probably choose one next week, which will give me 11 trades left, for the run home. I've improved that a little bit after going a bit harder earlier in the season. Tommy Jenkins coming in for Jackson Ford. He scares me this week, Jenkins, for the reasons I mentioned earlier around him, so I won't go into too much detail, but it just looms as a big one for the Panthers up there. Even if the Cowboys do put up a fight, and they might, they're a quality team. They've got a strong side this week with plenty on deck. I think there'll be points. I think there will, and I think they'll be on the edges of the Cowboys where they tend to be. So, yeah, I'm going Tommy Jenkins in, and as a non-Cleary owner myself, I think I'm going to captain Tommy Jenkins. Makes me a little nervous, but seriously, if this bloke doesn't score a try at the line break and score minimum 65-70, I'll give the game up. And then there's obviously the upside of a big score if the Panthers tee off up in Townsville. But yes, I think if you've got Cleary, you just captain him, easy done. I think I'm going to VC Herbie. I think there's an option to play around him. The way I'm looking at it, it's almost like risk mitigation. And I mentioned on beers and break-evens, I'm sort of hoping if Herbie goes nuts and can go 120, 130, and lots of Cleary captainers loop him, and I can do the same, it'll take the fear of the non-Cleary option out of it. Now, if I VC someone else and they go poorly and then Herbie goes 130, 140 and people loop him, well, I've still lost out on that. So I'm thinking Herbie Farmworth is my VC this week. For any Kalen Ponga and Nathan Cleary owners out there, good luck to you because you've got a red hot side this week and there's a lot of you. I'd probably VC Cleary into C Ponga because both those blokes terrify me as a non-owner. Sit v start. I have Nico and Iro on the bye. I have Kai Pearce-Paul injured who'll leave probably next week. As it stands, I'm not playing Pascoe, Stefano, Paseka, Lukey. Yeah, they're my main ones. I'm playing Hosking, Sharp, Marju, Fa'alonga as my bench. CT Dubs sort of speak for themselves. Herbie, Kiraz, Isako, Alamotti. I'm forced to play Tamari Martin because I've got Hines at halfback, which is fine, despite it a toughish matchup, or it's a tough matchup. I'm playing Cody Walker and Fletcher Sharp at the moment. I'm playing Lasardi and Tallis Duncan at the moment. Willison, obviously. So the only way it'd change is if I played Lukey over Cody Walker or Hosking or someone. I'm not sure, but I reckon I'll stick with what I've got at the moment. All righty, guys, that'll do us for the Q&A podcast for NRL Supercoach Round 17. Hope you've enjoyed. Have a great weekend.